Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money, the WorryFree Retirement, with your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist and six-time author and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Welcome, folks, to the WorryFree Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today we're going to cover for you, it's not a matter of if, but when, part 3. But before we get started, let me introduce our production crew here in the WorryFree Studios in Louisville, Kentucky. America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orander, and Louisville, Kentucky's most laid-back graphics artist, Mr. Derek Hudson. Okay, so there you sit, either retired already or thinking of retiring in the near future, or how about this? You're not retired, but you've got a decent-sized 401k plan still sitting over at that former employer of yours doing next to nothing, and you're asking yourself one or more of these not if, but when questions. So let's take a look at them again. We've already covered when to take Social Security, when to roll over your 401k, when to deal with your tax tumor, and when to start taking less risk. Today we're going to cover when to start spending your money and when to seek a retirement planning specialist. Oh, incidentally, all of these episodes, our past episodes, can be seen on our YouTube channel by searching Tony Walker Financial on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com. You can go back and watch those past episodes. I think that's going to really get you up to speed on what we're talking about today. So when we have questions like this, we're going to be covering the things that deal with spending today, and then also this idea of a retirement planning specialist. So let's jump right in. All right, we're going to talk about number 5, when to start spending your money. So if someone asked me, Tony, in your over 38 years of meeting and working with thousands of savers, what is the one crucial mistake that savers make in retirement? I'd have to say without hesitation, that's right, most people wait too long to start spending their money. So the question begs itself to be asked. Since no one knows how long you might live, and we don't know what the cost of living might be in retirement, isn't the whole reason savers should be hesitant to spend their money in retirement is because of all these things you're hearing from the financial world? Because here's what happens. The financial world does not want you spending this money. They're going to warn you against spending money because of inflation and all these other things they're warning you about. They don't want you spending this money because of something called OPM, or other people's money. This is how they make money on your money, folks. They don't want you to spend it. And what I've noticed is, as one gets older, people travel less. They don't go out to eat as much. Maybe they downsize their home. And then all of a sudden, they're sitting there with all this money, and they don't have really any need to spend it. That's right. They've waited too long, and now all they got to do is figure out what to do with something called the tax tumor. But that sounds really exciting. Or maybe how they're going to spend their last dollar in a nursing home. So why do so many savers wait too long to spend and enjoy their money in retirement? It's because they don't understand something I took note of some 20 years ago called the 3 halves of life. And basically, this is how this works, folks. When you get older, we get into the first half, halftime, and second half. When you get older, most people are going to spend less money. So actually, you want the money going down. And of course, with our split IRA concept, we can show you how you can use and enjoy your money during halftime. But then as you get into second half and you spend less money, we can also show you how to keep from running out of it. So when we return, an interesting graphic I've put together and why so many in the financial world don't want to talk about the second half of life and why you're going to need a trained retirement planning specialist in your corner. I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the WorryFree Retirement. We'll be right back. Wondering how much money you'll need to retire? Probably a lot less than you think. I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, and for the past 36 years, I've helped thousands of savers determine when to retire and how much money they'll need in retirement, and I can help you too. To meet in person at no cost or obligation, let me invite you to log on right now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. We look forward to talking with you soon. Our Tony in the Trenches comes to us from Dave in Lexington, who asks the following questions. Tony, I saw your show the other day where you say other advisors say Tony Walker Financial's just going to slap money into an annuity. Well, I've got a new one for you. An advisor I met with the other day said, hey, all that Tony Walker is going to do is tell me what I want to hear, which sounds like a good idea to me. What am I missing? Well, I'll tell you what you're missing, Dave, is an advisor who understands the mind of a saver and how important it is for that saver to have in their possession a written game plan. Something that looks like this, what we offer at Tony Walker Financial. You see, without an understanding of how you will spend less money in the later years of retirement, coupled with a retirement game plan to monitor your assets and your spending, there is no way to truly be worry-free in retirement. Instead, what you're going to do is just hold on to the money because you're afraid to spend it, rather than spending time with a trained retirement specialist who can show you how to confidently spend and enjoy this money. But is it any wonder that the Consumer Confidence Index for retirement in the future is its lowest since 2009? Remember 2009, when the financial industry almost collapsed, as did most 401k plans at that time. So why is consumer confidence so low? Why are more and more savers less confident about their future than ever before? Because most, again, are not working with trained retirement specialists who understand how to beat their worries. So let's take a look at why Dave's advisor is saying that Tony Walker Financial just tells people what they want to hear. Well, because what I'm about to share with you is exactly what you need to hear. And it's a graphic I created that kind of dovetails on this 3 halves of life. So let's kind of take a look at what's going to happen as we move through these 3 halves. So what happens in the first half of life? This is generally people under the age of 55 who are saving for retirement. Well, when you think about it, the first half is always about where to invest. And there's nothing wrong with that. Let's take a 401k plan, for instance. In the 401k, let's look at some of the options you might have in a 401k. You can invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, even CDs. You can't really get annuities in a 401k or real estate or gold or silver, but you could possibly go out and just buy those. A lot of people are just looking at different products. So what happens is in the first half, all of the discussion is always about where should I invest my money? And that's really about it. There's very little planning going on in terms of retirement planning. And many of the reasons for that is because people are younger. They're not really thinking about retirement. They're just trying to stockpile and sock away money somewhere, and that is what we call the where. But something interesting happens. It's kind of a transition that takes place, and I call this halftime, and it's usually at that 55 to age 60. You know, the where is still important, but all of a sudden the where begins to change a little bit. We'll use an example of somebody who's been 100% in the stock market all of their life, and they're approaching what I call halftime. In other words, that period of time where they're thinking, you know what, I may not be working that much longer, and I've got to understand where to invest the money on a more safe basis. You know, it'd be one thing to get in this transition here and you got 100% of the money in the market like it did in 2009 and the darn thing crash. You're either going to have to put off your plans on retirement, or if you're already retired, you're probably going to have to go back to work. So there's a transition that takes place. Not only does the where change, and you need to get with somebody that understands retirement planning, but the most important question you got to ask yourself is over here. And that's as you move into that second half of life, and that is, who are you going to trust with this money? I mean, think about this just a second. When you put money with a 401k plan, you might trust the institution handling it, but they're really not giving you any advice. They're not giving you advice on how to deal with the tax tumor, fees, how much you can spend, when to take Social Security, what's going to happen to this money when you die. That's the job of a retirement planning specialist. So this is a huge decision, and this decision usually needs to be made in that transition of halftime, because when you get into the second half of life, here's what you're going to want to demand from the person or institution that you're going to trust. First of all, hopefully they're fiduciaries like Tony Walker. We are fiduciaries required by law to work in your best interest. So I got to ask you a question. If given a choice between working with an advisor that's going to handle your life savings, who is a fiduciary, versus one who is not, surely you would want to work with someone required by law to work in your best interest. The second thing you're going to want to do, hopefully, is somebody who is experienced in retirement planning. Folks, since focusing on retirement planning shortly after 9/11, I have personally overseen more than 5,000 written game plans. We have over 3,000 clients, and we understand the experience. And these game plans really help us, because what happens when we're working on this number of game plans, we see so many different things go on in people's lives that then we can tailor to your personal situation based on our experience. Next is staff. Now, I don't know about you, but I want to make sure that if I call some number, that I have the people on hand immediately to help you, and our staff at Tony Walker Financial is ready to serve. Obviously, we have a 5-step process that we follow. This game plan allows us to stay focused on you, and you know you've got a process to monitor into the future. The philosophy, we call that the live well, die broke philosophy. Folks, you got to spend this money and enjoy it before it's too late, but you also have to know how to do that without the fear of running out of money. We can show you how to do that. And finally, we are full service. We are a full service firm dedicated to your retirement planning needs. So if you look at that and you go, Tony, I've never thought about this phase in life where I'm going to need a retirement planning specialist. Why don't you do this right now? Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on that Let's Get Started. Let's arrange that free 10-minute fiduciary phone call and see how we can help you get on a road to a worry-free retirement. Okay, stay tuned. I'm Tony Walker. We'll be right back.
Hello there, this is Wes Walker with Tony Walker Financial. I'm Tony's nephew and one of the fiduciaries on staff, and wanted to take a moment to talk to you about bonds. It's something we've been running into quite a bit here lately, as people have brought over portfolios with existing bonds and wondered, why are these bonds down? I thought they were supposed to be safe. So to just briefly explain with my 2 minutes here what a bond is essentially a loan that's made from a lender to a borrower, and that lender will pay a guaranteed interest rate on that bond for as long as the term exists. So let's take, for instance, if you had a 5-year bond paying 3%, and all of a sudden interest rates got raised and the prevailing interest rate was now 5%, your old bond worth 3% would now be worth less, because there's a newer, higher interest rate out there and investors are willing to pay more for that bond. So what we've seen in 2022, the Federal Reserve has raised interest rates, dampening the value of existing bonds. And when we see those bonds come over to our firm, we have to make a decision on whether to sell those bonds or stay in them. That's why it's really important to get someone on your team who's a fiduciary who can help you make those decisions and design and implement a portfolio that might not have such a long-term bond exposure, but can also help you mitigate that risk and plan for it in retirement. Thanks, and have a great day.
Who can you trust? It's one of the most important decisions you'll have to make. Question is, are you ready? Well, we're here to help at Tony Walker Financial. You know, we care more about you than we do your money, and we have over 2,000 happy clients and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau to prove it. Rolling over a 401k, confused about Social Security, maybe you're afraid of running out of money. Learn how to use and enjoy and protect your hard-earned money. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com and let's get started. Our Live Well, Die Broke moment comes to me and the privilege I had in reading my latest children's book, The Adventures of Tony, Baloney, and Cookie, to my grandkids Scout and Ivy and their preschool classes here in Louisville, Kentucky. Also, by the way, we are making a full feature cartoon and really coming up with some cool stuff. In fact, we've got a little theme song we might even play for you at the end of today's program. All right, let's get back to our topic, and that is, it's not a matter of if, but when to seek a retirement planning specialist. And this is a great Tony in the Trenches question. This comes up a lot, and let me kind of set the stage. Obviously, we do a lot of advertising. I see anywhere from 20 to 30 people a week. Many of these people are brand new, know very little about Tony Walker Financial, but they realize there's something different about our operation. So inevitably, when they come in, some of these people have been working with advisors a long time, and you can see the framework of this question, and let's just read what this particular couple said. They said, Tony, we've been working over the years with an advisor who is really a nice guy, and this can also be family members, by the way. But every time I ask about a plan for retirement, he kind of changes the subject. Also, my account has dropped a lot in value, and his only suggestion is to hang in there. The person goes on to say, we're 60 years of age, we don't have time to hang in there and feel we need a plan, so what should we do? Well, let me answer this question this way. If you had your life savings at risk, if you were going into retirement, and now that you've watched this show, realize all the different nuances, all the things you're going to have to decide in retirement, and the expertise required by someone to handle all these things that will surely come your way, why in the world would you be worried about possibly offending an advisor who may not be equipped to deal with the things in retirement? First of all, if they're a family or friend, I get it, but that's not the point. The point is this is your money, and you have to take care of it and look out for your best interest. You know, as we record this show on January 17th, 2023, the Georgia Bulldogs football team just won their second consecutive NCAA championships, 2 in a row, which is hard to do. Well, much of the credit goes to this gentleman, the offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. And they asked about his secret to success, and I love this, and kind of keep this in mind with what we just talked about, with you worried about offending an advisor who might be a good person, a good friend, a churchgoer, or whatever, but may not know anything about retirement planning. He said this. He said, this is a business. This isn't a family. You're going to fire me if you can imagine what he said there, so don't say it's a family. Now, what did Coach Monken mean by this? I know exactly what he meant, folks. He meant that this is all business, and this is the way we look at your money. Folks, I've been doing this nearly 40 years, and here's what I can tell you. My passion is to help savers, and this is to remember that it's your money first. This is not our money. We have the privilege of working with you, and if we don't do a good job for you, you have the right, just like Mr. Monken says, to fire us. We're not family. This is a business relationship, and we're going to do everything we can to meet your expectations. We're going to make sure our fees are reasonable. We want to make sure our service is over the top. And we're going to make sure as long as I'm alive and willing, you're going to be able to meet with the owner of the company and also have at your beck and call 3 salaried fiduciaries who are here to help you at any time. So if you feel like you're at that point now, maybe it's getting awkward. Maybe you realize this friend or this family member or this church member really doesn't have what it takes to really set up a retirement game plan for you, to not just sell you something, but to be there to service your retirement needs long into the future. I got to ask you a question. I'm kind of like Mr. Monken here. Why not? Here's what I would suggest you do. To get a free second opinion, why don't you do this? Just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. When you get there, you're going to click on that Let's Get Started button, and we're going to arrange a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call with you and me just to talk about your situation. And then if it warrants, I'll be happy to meet with you in our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or simply call us at the number on your screen. Well, what does the Bible have to say about all of this? And what is one of the root causes of why we worry so much about money? Good stuff coming your way. Let me get a cup of coffee. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back. Well, our employee spotlight today is none other than our own Jennifer Jaggers, and I want to welcome Jennifer to the program.
Thank you, Tony. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I know you and Heather made the trip from Bowling Green to our Louisville studios today. What's it like driving down here knowing this is what I do once a week, is driving the roads of I-65? How was the drive, by the way?
I admire you for that. As a road rage kind of girl, better you than me.
Well, we are excited to have you. And again, we just wanted you to share briefly. First of all, I like to call you JJ. That's your new nickname. But first of all, about your background in banking. You came to us recently, and we're so fortunate to have you. But tell the audience a little bit about your background.
Okay. I actually started off pretty much my career in banking. I've always been on the loan side of banking, so I was a loan processor for a long time. I enjoyed that. I thought now since being here, I really enjoy the research aspect of this job. I totally did not know anything about this financial world, so I have enjoyed thoroughly learning the other side of finances, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. And you've done such a wonderful job. Of course, we've had some changes at Tony Walker Financial. We're growing like crazy. But you started out servicing our annuity business and client services, and you're still doing some of that. But talk about your role in terms of administering and getting all the new annuity business issued, and how detailed that is, and how much business we're doing now to help these savers.
After you bring the file back to me, I get all of the client's personal information. I put that into whichever insurance agency that we are using for that annuity that they have chosen. I submit that information. I make sure all of their suitability, which is their financial information, is correct and accurate, so that those annuities will be submitted. And when we get that annuity finalized back in the office, I put together a neat little binder for you to deliver to them at their final appointment.
And I guess sometimes I probably need to have you more in meetings. You don't get to see this, but the way we organize everything and the way we present everything, what would you speak to that? I mean, just the involved, detailed process of getting the annuities, putting them in the binders. We have the last day planners. Can you speak to that a little bit, and how good you feel that, hey, we've got the mission accomplished, here's your annuity, here's how we work at Tony Walker Financial?
Those binders are amazing to me. It takes everything that they have, everything that they've purchased, it puts that in a nice little graph for them. You have their actual paper copies of their annuities placed into that binder. So everything's very organized for that if they need that in the future while you're sitting there with them going over that.
And then they know too, they've got you. Now we got Mandy in the office, but they've got you to follow back up with service questions regarding those annuities.
Right. And anything as far as change of addresses, change of beneficiaries, anything that you need to change on that current annuity contract, we can get that taken care of.
Well, JJ, we appreciate your work so much. We're so happy to have you at Tony Walker Financial, and look forward to writing many more annuities and helping all these savers.
Thank you, Tony. Happy to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. In keeping with our theme of it's not a matter of if, but when we have struggles in our life, that is, last week on the Worry-Free Retirement, we talked about the 3 P's of faith and why having faith in God is so important in dealing with the struggles, trials, and tribulations that will surely come our way. And while these particular 3 P's of faith in God are key ingredients to remaining at peace with God and able to endure the struggles that will surely come our way, there is a 4th P of faith I would like to suggest adding to the mix. A word starting with the letter P recently repeated on live TV following the collapse on January 2nd during a live TV of NFL Buffalo Bills game and player Damar Hamlin, who, thankfully, as of the date of this recording, is recovering quite nicely. You see, on January 2nd, as millions of Americans were settled in to watch the Bengals take on the Bills, an apparent normal tackle by Hamlin resulted in his immediate collapse on the field and looking like he might not make it. While medics and others tried to revive Hamlin, what I noticed immediately is the reaction of most of the players on the field, and that reaction was the only action they could provide in such a dire and hopeless moment, and it's our 4th P, called prayer. In fact, look at this recent headline focused on the prayers of so many people who were lifting up Damar Hamlin. Of this act of prayer, the late, great Charles Spurgeon says in Colossians 4:2, "If he has said a great deal about prayer, it is because he knew we would have a great need of it." As Spurgeon goes on to say, a prayerless soul is a Christless soul. In other words, my take on the act of prayer is that our prayers prove where our faith truly lies, not in man's ability to do things beyond our power, but in God's ability. Which begs the question, as we proceed through the year 2023, a year that appears to be filled with so much uncertainty, so many misgivings, so much dissension, and so much division, and unfortunately, greed and envy of others, wouldn't it be lovely if we expressed our faith in God through prayer, not just when there's a tragedy, like that which was witnessed during a football game, but also prayer that looks a lot like the prayer suggested by the Apostle Paul, where beginning in 1 Thessalonians 5:16, he says we are to do this. First, rejoice at all times. Second, pray without ceasing. And finally, after rejoicing and praying without ceasing, give thanks in every circumstance. Why? Because this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So here's my thoughts. Whether times are tough or times are at the best you've ever experienced, follow Paul's guidelines of prayer, because when you do, I can assure you that the worries of the world will seem less and less significant, so that your focus can be more on the things of God. Amen? Well, speaking of having faith, how confident are you in the faith of your advisor or the company that's in charge of your life savings during this thing called retirement? Do you really feel like that person or that institution has your best interest at heart, or is it more so theirs? Well, let me make a suggestion, and this suggestion is not only a good one, but it only takes 10 minutes and is absolutely free, and guess what? Comes with no obligation on your part. We call it the free 10-minute fiduciary phone call, and here's how easy it is to get started on your journey to a faithful retirement. First, all you can do, if you want to, is just log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. When you get there, just click on that Let's Get Started button. Or if you like, you can simply call the number on your screen and tell them you wish to arrange a free 10-minute fiduciary phone call with myself, the owner of the company, Tony Walker. Then, after this phone call, if it merits, I will be happy to meet with you in person at either our Bowling Green, Louisville, or Lexington, Kentucky offices. So do it today. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or give us a call at the number on your screen. Oh, speaking of my Live Well, Die Broke moment with Tony Baloney and Cookie, check out our theme song to the Tony Baloney cartoon we're working on. We'll let that roll, but you remember, between now and next week, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
Tony Baloney, T-L-E-Go, Tony, T-legged, toe-legged, bow-legged Tony, 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 Tony Baloney, T-L-E-Go, Tony, T-legged, toe-legged, bow-legged